Hi there. If you are watching this video, chances are you're entering your first field trip or it's your first time inside of LINQ. So this video is designed to help walk you through the questions and answers that you may have when entering a field trip. First thing you should know is that there is a PDF version of this field trip before you even get started. Please ask your supervisor or principal for a copy of this if you're not sure where it lives. Every question that you're going to be asked inside of LINQ is right here on this form, including information like where you're going to be going, like the address and everything like that, the departure date and the time you're planning to return. There are also specific questions like, is this a trip that's happening multiple days? Like, is this a grade level field trip that will be occurring more than once? Or is it something that's happening weekly or monthly and it's the exact same trip? If it is, you're going to mark yes when you're inside of LINQ. If it's an overnight trip, there's also an opportunity to say if it's a yes or a no. You'll see there's going to be drop downs and other questions related to these items, including the kind of group that you're with. If you have multiple chaperones, you'll put those details on there. Perhaps one area that might get a few more questions is around district transportation. So if you're planning to use a district school bus, please be prepared to answer this whole second page, which is going to include where the bus should plan to pick you up and drop you off, the details about the time you need to leave and the time you need to arrive at your destination, how many buses will be involved, how many total hours will be needed, the total number of miles anticipated, and if you need any special accommodations such as a wheelchair or booster seats. This part of the form you'll see inside of LINQ will automatically calculate based on your responses. Some important things to know include that every trip should be a estimated number of hours of 4 or more depending on your trip, so please anticipate that. Also anticipate that if you have a certain number of students or a certain type of bus, you may need to accommodate for more than one bus. Again, everything that you enter on this form when you're inside of LINQ will calculate with that in mind. Transportation will then review your request when it gets to them, and they'll make adjustments if they need to. Another thing to be aware of is this total cost associated with a trip. This area is meant to include any costs associated with transportation, but also any costs that are associated with the trip, such as registration or ticket fees, if that applies. Please plan to put the total number, the total cost of your trip in this area when you get to this place. And finally, just to know, when you get to this part about providing an account number, this is specifically meant for the supervisor or principal to fill out. So you as a staff member may not know that account number, but your administrator supervising this trip will. So they will be filling that piece out. Now, as far as taking the information that you're preparing here and putting it inside of LINQ, let me show you where you would go to find it to be able to fill it out. So if you're on our district website, you're going to go down to the faculty and staff and then go to frequently needed forms. When you scroll down, a request for a school field trip will be listed here. Ultimately, it's going to take you to a screen that looks like this. Remember, when you hit start on this screen, it remembers that you started a new field trip request. So it makes your account pending this new request. What'll happen is if you start this request and don't finish it, you will be able to pick up where you left off as long as you hit save for later. Now, as you fill this out, you're going to see details just like you did on that PDF form where everything is fillable here. There are going to be some questions that you see are required that you cannot skip them. And as I told you before, there will be some drop downs. So here you're going to choose the one that best fits your department, as that's going to be indicative of where it gets routed to. Please choose the appropriate supervisor. In this case, I'm choosing an elementary K-5, so it won't be departmentalized, but it will go to my building principal. Now that I filled out my full example here, you can see everything works the way that I would expect it to. Everything checks out like I would want it to. And anything that's giving me a hard time, I can go ahead and fix. And again, I just wish to take a moment to reiterate, when you get to the transportation section, make sure you have the total number of miles. If you're not sure, Google the address from your location and how you will come back. You can see it calculates the total number of miles of your full trip here. You should anticipate putting a minimum of 4 hours for your trip, regardless of how long the trip is, and put the total number of hours here and the total number of buses expected. Then you can see I get a total for my transportation cost. This here, this number would be reflective of the $96 plus any additional ticket costs. I'd fill out this additional pieces, and when I hit submit, I will now have submitted the field trip request. So what you don't see on the back end is that this will be then routed to the supervisor, then to the principal, then to transportation before it gets to central office. It is possible along the way that you may receive email notifications of where the status is of your application. You may be notified that it has moved through these different phases successfully. You also may get notified if your field trip is denied for any reason or requires additional edits. Once your field trip is approved, you will be notified. The email address you should expect these emails to come from will be alerts@scriptapp.com. And if you have any questions, first check with your supervisor, who may be able to answer some questions about accounts or how you would put in your field trip. They also can look into where your application is. So if you're looking for the status of your application after a few days, check first with your supervisor and then with your building principal as appropriate. You have a question about your field trip in LINQ or any other LINQ form or workflow, you can use the data support ticket system to submit your request. As you can see, LINQ is listed right here, and I'll walk you through to ask you more specific steps to find out the status of your request. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your supervisor first. Otherwise, we are happy to help you at central office.